Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to episode 1 of Doom Patrol. So this is going to be interesting. First off, this is a donation reward from, again, I'm going to mispronounce your name, but it's Rib PS, so Ribs? I don't know. I apologize. But it's a donation reward from Ribs. And it's a live action series. You may notice that I don't really do those on the channel. And let me explain why. So I've tried a couple reactions here to live action shows before. Even shows that I've enjoyed. Like I tried, I believe, reacting to Supernatural at first. My biggest issue came from just the length of it. Like a lot of these live action shows tend to be an hour long each episode. And I guess maybe it's just been my issue with keeping focused. But it's like, I don't know, it's just something about it has just always thrown me off. Plus, just the fact that it is so different from most of my content. Again, most of what I do is anime or cartoons. So the fact that there's a live action series, it throws me off a little bit. And I've tried it with all these other series, and it's like, even right from the start, I liked Supernatural, but it's like, I don't know, something I was reacting to, it threw me off. And just felt wrong. But I want to give it another chance, and so it's good that Rips requested Doom Patrol. So what do I know about this series going in? Well, I know Brendan Fraser is in it as some generic robot-looking dude. And I know it's DC, and that's pretty much it. Here's the thing, I don't know who these characters are at all. Like, I'm a big DC fangirl, like, over Marvel and stuff. I always have been, but that doesn't mean I know every single character in DC Comics. And I outside of, before this series came out, let's put it this way, before this series came out and everything, I had never even heard of Doom Patrol. Granted, the same can be said for Guardians of the Galaxy with Marvel. I had never heard of Doom Patrol. And even since the series came out, I never heard anything about these characters outside of the context of the series. So I have no clue what to expect here. I have heard that the series is comical. So that is another thing I kind of know, but I don't know how comical. Like, is it like Guardians of the Galaxy level? Is it kind of different from that? I don't know. I really don't know what to expect with this pretty much at all. So since I've mentioned Guardians of the Galaxy a couple times, let me explain that if this series does end up being similar, if it's comical and whatnot. I'm not the biggest Guardians of the Galaxy fan. I know a lot of people like those movies. I like the first one, but the second one, not so much. In fact, I've rewatched it a couple times, and I've actually liked it less each time I've rewatched it. I don't like the second Guardians of the Galaxy film. And it's like, I've grown kind of blah on just the characters in general. Like, there's some things about them that I do enjoy, but for the most part, they're honestly one of the weaker parts of the MCU for me. And the fact that Thor Ragnarok basically just tried to be a Guardians of the Galaxy clone with the movie, it's just, that irritated me as well and threw me off of all of that kind of stuff with the MCU. So yeah, I tend to like my superheroes a lot more, I guess you could say, serious. Like my favorite superheroes are like Batman and Wonder Woman and whatnot, where it's like, yeah, there can be some comedy put in there, of course. You kidding me? But they are more serious heroes. And most of what you see of them is going to be serious and going to focus on that side of it. Like, even just counting DC, it's like I do not like Flash or um, the Hal Jordan Green Lantern, I guess, is the more comical one, as much as like Batman or Wonder Woman or even Superman, though he's a little more comedic than the others. I do tend to like the more serious ones, which is why Batman is my favorite superhero and has pretty much always been. Again, that doesn't mean there can't be comedy injected in there. It just has to be handled in a way that doesn't take away from the seriousness, which unfortunately too much of the actual comedy stuff in superheroes tends to do. So I'm hoping that this one is either a good amount of comedy that feels natural or is just basically a parody. If it's a parody, I can handle that because that would be the point, and as if it's done well, then I'd be fine with a parody of it. But if it's just trying to be a comedic superhero thing, and it just doesn't get any kind of balance right, it's just I'm probably not. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. Um, and again, it's like all I know about it going in is that it's supposedly comedic, that Brendan Fraser is in it, and that it's DC. I don't know anything about the story. I don't know anything else about any of the characters. I don't even know about anything about Brendan Fraser's character other than what he looks like. So I really am super fucking blind going into this. And I like that. You guys know I like that. So hopefully this ends up impressing me more than not. Because I'm really afraid it's not going to. Being so critical when it comes to superhero content as I am. Um but we'll see. We'll see. So yeah, I'm interested. These are hour-long episodes, like I mentioned, with a lot of these live-action shows. So we will definitely only be doing one episode per video. I'm gonna say straight up now, there will not be a time when I will do more than one episode per video. Not even for like a two-parter or whatnot. I just 2 hours for just this reaction. I just don't want to do here. There's, I believe, just under 20 episodes total for the season. I don't know about season two or anything, but we could tackle that when we get to it. So I think it's right around the same amount of episodes as Owl House. So it should be doable. It's just, it might take a while. I don't know. Again, we'll see how it's handled and kind of go from there. I don't know how I'll feel about it, and if I do end up dropping it at that point, we can figure something else out or move on from that. This is kind of like I said at the beginning, this is kind of like an experiment of sorts. Just to see if I can do it as well, because it is a live action series and I've notoriously had trouble reacting to those in the past. Um, but we'll see. I'm hoping to like it. That's the thing I want to make very clear. Just like with any series I react to, I want to like this and I want to continue it all the way through. I want to make that very clear. But at the same time, I am worried. And I'm not going to lie about that either. I'm going to tell you guys right out that I'm worried that I might have trouble with this one. We'll have to see. We will have to see. So, in the meantime, we're just gonna get this started, check it out, and see what we got. I don't know anything else about it, and I don't know any of the other actors in it besides Brendan Fraser. But hey, I mean, I like a lot of Brendan Fraser stuff. I liked him in the Mummy movies. I love him in George of the Jungle. God, if you have not seen the old Brendan Fraser George of the Jungle movie, you need to check it out. It's amazing. It's so fucking good. Um, and just various other things here. He was good in Inkheart too. Inkheart is such an underrated movie. I really wish more people talked about it and really just enjoyed it as much as I do. But yeah, so I am excited for him, especially with all the shit he's gone through in his life. I definitely want to support him with this, with watching this. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. So let's just get this going. When the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So first off, Matt Bomer was in White Collar. That was the show I was trying to think of. I kept thinking Burn Notice, but I knew that wasn't him in Burn Notice. I don't know why I was thinking that. Either way, so just first thoughts on this based off this first episode. Just initial first thoughts. I think I have to see how this goes. Because not too much happened in this first episode. Um, there was obviously a big climax to the episode's events and everything. And by the end, it definitely took a big turn. But for most of the episode, it was just introducing us to the characters and I guess you could say the basic concept of everything. So we mostly follow Brendan Fraser's character. Cliff, who was a NASCAR driver, who died, had pretty much his entire body destroyed, and was turned into a cyborg with the only remaining human part of him being his brain. So that's fun. So most of the episode seems to focus on him as kind of the main character. Everything is kind of happening around him. But we do get to meet other characters too. We meet Jane, who is this girl with a bunch of different personalities. She has dissociative identity disorder. I don't remember the exact number they said, but it was a lot. And each identity has its own powers. But also the identities switch completely at random. And it's completely unclear which one you're going to get. So, yeah, kind of has an issue in regards to that. You have Rita, who is a former actress who had an accident during filming one day, and something caused her to turn into turn into basically the blob, I guess. Like her body kind of turns into a blob like form. It's just this mass of flesh, this amorphous mass of flesh. She can seem to keep it under control at some times, but then it will just she'll lose control easily enough, it seems. Then you have Larry, who was a former pilot who was he was taking this new ship out for a test run when something aboard it, this like electrical thing interfered and basically caused him to crash and everything. He didn't die though. The electrical, whatever it was, this electrical life form seemed to merge with him, allowing him to survive. But he's so horrifically burned that he has to wear bandages at pretty much all times. Um, and then you have the leader, Niles, I think his name was, Timothy Dalton's character. I think they mentioned his name at one or two points. I think it was Niles. Um, he's just kind of like this old man in a wheelchair, kind of this tough asshole who put them together seemingly for his own reasons. And it seemed like by the end of the episode that it was completely his decision to do this and everything. And we obviously know it was against all of their will. That much is super clear. But it's like he's trying to control them, trying to tell them what to do and everything, but they're rebelling in the end. um, so, yeah, that's pretty interesting setup of characters. We also had this other character. I don't remember what his name was, but Alan Tudyk's character, who was kind of narrating the whole thing and breaking the fourth wall often enough. He's shown at the beginning of the episode. We see what happens to him. He's like with the scientist who does this experiment on him. He's mentioned he was like this henchman to a bad guy. Um, but we never find out what happened to him afterwards. I was kind of expecting him to come in at some point as part of the group, but then I started thinking, like, what if he's the bad guy? It mentioned he was a henchman for the bad guy, so what if he becomes a bad guy? Like a full villain himself. And at the end, we get that confirmation. He comes in, he's like this. I do not know how to describe him. It's just kind of like parts of him are there, parts are not, but he seems to have like these really intense powers. Like it looked like he opened up like a black hole almost. Um, and he's definitely who the chief is afraid of. Also, the donkey is apparently a thing in connection to that too. So I don't know what the deal with the donkey is. Um, but hopefully we'll find out how the chief knows him and what the entire deal with all of this is. Um, so in the first episode, yeah, we just find out what happens with all these characters, where they came from, like what their deal was, and how they're kind of moving on with their current lives as what they've become. There's a scene at the big climax where they go into town against their, I guess you could say, creators' orders, against Timothy Dalton's orders. And things start out fine, but go completely to shit. Rita starts turning into her blob form. Jane just goes between identities and it gets them in trouble. Um, Larry starts to have some issues with whatever this electrical life form that's in him is. And Cliff is just being gawked at the entire time, but then he has to get involved to stop Rita, who gets out of control. So everything is kind of getting messed up in the end. But it does end up working out, but the damage was kind of already done. Um, but we also find out about some of the characters a little more too. And the big two for me were definitely Cliff and Larry. Cliff, like I said, is the focal character of the episode. He's the one that we follow. So he was a race car driver who had a very bad relationship with his wife. They were not on good terms. to the point where they were actually both cheating on each other. Cliff was cheating with the nanny, with the maid at their house, their mansion, honestly, while she was cheating with his pit chief from his NASCAR crew. And things went really south really quick, but they decided to try and mend things up after everything went down and after he snapped after the race and attacked his pit chief. um, they decided to try to patch things up. They actually wanted to give it another chance, but on the trip, on the road, they ended up crashing into a stopped truck, and both he and his wife were killed. His wife decapitated, him probably much of the same. And their daughter was the only survivor. But at first, Cliff is told she died too. It's actually hidden that she survived, and I hope she does come into play at some point. I hope that he does get to reunite with her. Even if it goes wrong, even if it goes poorly, I want him to actually have that chance. We see through his backstory that he made a lot of mistakes, he had a lot of issues, but he wanted to fix them. He wanted to fix them for the sake of his family, especially his daughter, who he adored. But he never really got that chance. Everything went wrong right when he tried to start fixing things. And it's what makes him so sympathetic and well, likable, I guess is a word you could say, true, but that's not what I was trying to think of. So sympathetic and so just connecting of a character. That's why he's a good focal point for this first episode, because we can like understand his love for, well, his loved ones, and the fact that he made these horrible mistakes but wanted to fix them. So many of us have been in that position. I talk about in multiple videos that I've made some horrible mistakes and done and said horrible things. I'm very open about that because I'm also very open and glad that I've worked so hard to better myself, that I've done my best to change that. So I'm happy that I've come so far. And because of that, I'm not afraid to talk about where I've been and how bad I've been. And so I definitely connected to him through that, through doing bad things, but wanting to make things better afterwards, wanting to improve on my life. And then you had Larry, who, as it was put, felt like a monster even before all of this went down. Because he was gay. And that part nearly brought me to tears. I felt so fucking bad for him because, like, in the time that he was from, I believe he was from the 40s, I think. I know a couple of them were from the 40s. I think a couple like were from the 80s or something. But either way, even if it was the 80s with him, there was still a time when homosexuality was extremely looked down upon by so many people. And even now it still is. It's gotten a lot better, but it still is. And as someone in the LGBTQ plus community, myself, and as someone who fights strongly for the community and for queer people everywhere and who wants to see them happy and successful and just being able to be who they are, yeah, that did hit hard. And they didn't even have to say it, they just showed it. They used the show Don't Tell. And it's really horrible that he's had to go through that and had to feel that pain even before everything happened. But even after, he still has that pain inside of him. He still feels that, and he still worries about people staring at him and judging him because of it. Even people who don't know and don't know him have no reason to judge him for that, have no way to be able to. And again, that's something I can speak to from experience because I definitely have those same feelings. As a queer person, as a trans woman, as all of that. And so those two characters were definitely the ones I connected to. Rita, I like very much because at first I was kind of fearing that she was going to be like this very self-centered, egocentric type character because she was this Hollywood actress and everything. But no, she's actually shown to be very down to earth, very kind, and have just a really good head and heart within her. So I really like how they've portrayed her. But I feel like again, we haven't gotten enough with her yet because the first episode was focused so heavily on Cliff. And Jane, we definitely didn't get a lot with, but we can see how her personality disorder can affect her and can affect just a lot with her. So we do see it. And yeah, it's hard to see that kind of thing. They're all going through this kind of stuff. And I think that's what the selling point is right now for me. The characters, their struggles, their character, their life, all of that. And it does have some humor to it, but this is not, at least based off this first episode, as comedic as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a lot more comedy centered. I almost said Comedy Central there. I thought it was going to be a lot more centered on the comedy, but no, actually the heart was definitely a lot more prominent in this episode, at least. There was definitely a lot of comedy. And it was actually really balanced well. I was actually really surprised by that, and I'm really happy about that. I'm happy that they managed to balance it as well as they did, while still keeping the comedy in there. But it still felt serious and intense, and what I want from DC. Um, so yeah, I'm very excited about that. Now, as I said, I don't think this is connected to anything else in the DC extended universe or the shows or whatnot. At least I hadn't heard of it being so. Um, but maybe it is. I don't know. I have no way of knowing. Um, as long as it's not spoilers, you can tell me. If it is spoilers, don't say anything, I guess. But as of right now, I enjoyed this first episode. I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. But I definitely have to wait to see where this goes to fully judge it and to fully come up with a consensus on it, especially with this first plot point kind of leaving off on a cliffhanger in this episode. Like, I definitely want to see where this goes. Um, and I'm hoping to enjoy it. I'm hoping very much to enjoy this series, and I really want to like it. I really want this to surprise me, and I want it to surprise me, especially reacting to a live action series. I had no issues doing it with this first episode, so hopefully it continues again to be as good going forward. But in the meantime, tell me in the comments below what you thought of this first episode of Doom Patrol. Again, don't leave any spoilers for whatever future seasons there are. I know there's at least two. There might be three, but don't leave any spoilers. Just tell me your thoughts on this first episode. And thank you so much for tuning in. And for the person who donated for this, Rib, again, I don't know how to pronounce your name. I apologize, but Rib PS. Um, Thank you for suggesting this because I definitely would never have checked this out otherwise. And I'm definitely interested to see more. This again, I enjoyed this first episode. I very much did. So, yeah, thank you all so much for tuning in. And for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.